It's time for your daily dose of all things Chicago sports. This is the Daily Score. Now, here's your host, Mark Grote.
Hey, what's going on? I am Mark Grote. Welcome into the Daily Score. And I'll admit that while I am recording this, I'm keeping an eye on the Cubs game. And I hope that by the time you are listening to this podcast, the Cubs have stopped blowing offensive opportunities. Although as I am watching it, Justin Steele was brilliant again, and the Cubs are leading. Let's hope things that will not have changed by the time that you are watching or listening to this podcast. And thank you so much for being here. I'm Mark Grote. This is the Daily Score. Ray Diaz is here as well. Big day for the Chicago Bears for a lot of reasons. And I will say, before we get to the roster moves that were made, I still think that the biggest thing that we heard from the Bears on Tuesday is the fact that Matt Eberflus got up there and told us that Teven Jenkins is the only week-to-week injury. In other words, all of these injuries that we've been telling you about over the past few weeks, where it's been between 16 and 20 guys out on any given day, apparently they're all good to go now. You know, how cohesive the unit will be after guys missing a lot of time, like Jaquan Brisker and Tremaine Edmonds, who obviously already did return, but, you know, Eddie Jackson and so on. All of these guys, apparently they are ready to go, and they are off. If there was an injury report, they wouldn't be on it. Teven Jenkins would exist on it. So that's huge. I thought that was really good to hear. Now, the more pronounced news and the headline grabbing is going to be the cutdown day that occurred. The Bears right now, they have their 53-man roster. There are going to be more moves that are made because they get to put together a 16-man practice squad. And the Bears are, as players go through waivers, the Bears will have the first shot at everybody because they had the number one overall pick, and that extends over to the waiver wire as well. But let me do you guys a favor, and I'm going to go through all the players that were designated for waivers or cut or outright. I'm just going to read the list that the Bears sent to me. And just so you know exactly who is no longer part of the Bears, some of these names will be significant. Some of them will not be. But I'm going to go through exactly the way the Bears sent it. The Bears have waived the following players: linebacker Micah Baskerville, defensive lineman Travis Bell, who was one of their draft picks, late-round draft pick, fullback Robert Burns, who had a touchdown and a two-point conversion in the game on Saturday. He is out, as is tight end Stephen Carlson. Macon Clark is out. He was a defensive back for the Bears. Offensive lineman Kellen Dyche is no longer with the Bears. Neither is Dieter Iceland, another offensive lineman who maybe will be brought back on the practice squad. We'll see. DeMarquise Gates, a linebacker, was waived by the Bears. One of the big names or significant names, name that you will know, Trevis Gipson, the defensive lineman, waived by the Bears here, and this is fourth year, the money year of his rookie contract. Too bad for Trevis Gipson. Started on the upswing in his career with the Bears and just kind of has been a slide down since then. A great dude, a great interview, a great guy in the locker room, good to the fans at Soldier Field, all of that kind of stuff. So for whatever it's worth, yeah, Trevis Gipson, good dude. Jalen Harris, defensive lineman wave. So with Robert Haskins, another offensive lineman. DeAnthony Jones, Josh Lugg, Roy Mediteko was also waived by the Bears. Lachlan Pitts, Logan Steinberg, the offensive lineman, was waived by the Bears as well. Davian Taylor, Braylon Trahan, Kindle Vildor in that same draft class, the 2020 draft class with Trevis Gipson. He was waived today as well. So now I'm just looking at that 2020 class. Cole Kmet still prominently featured from that class. He got his dough, obviously. Jalen Johnson, a second-round pick from 2020. And, of course, these are not Poles' picks. But Jalen Johnson, he is hoping that he's on the cusp of getting an extension. Don't know if he's going to. Kindle Vildor, gone. Darnell Mooney, still very much here. Arlington Hambright and Latavius Simmons, the two seventh-round offensive linemen, are no more as well. Local kid, Skokie kid, Barrington Wade didn't make it. He was waived, as was Michael Walker. And another draft pick, of Ryan Poles. Kendall Williamson was the 7th rounder, just like Travis Bell. So both of those guys were waived. The Bears also terminated the following vested veterans: defensive lineman Andrew Brown, offensive lineman Aviante Collins, who we saw a lot in training camp, wide receiver Doris Fountain. My guy gets terminated. How do you terminate Doris Fountain? Stop it. Nathan Peterman. See if he makes it back to the practice squad. We're going to talk more about the quarterbacks here in just a second. Greg Stroman, defensive back. He was his contract terminated. Thought he had a good camp. He was good. Same with Simba Webster, the wide receiver, kick returner. We'll see if he lands back on the practice squad as well. Bears placed the following player on reserve injured. That'd be wide receiver Isaiah Ford. And finally, the Bears have waived the following player with an injury designation. Again, waived/injured. That is running back Treston Ebner. So Treston Ebner is gone. And again, practice squads will be formulated. I do want to get into what it means for the guys that are here. And I think that, the most significant story of a player that made this team still is, and we're going to be using this name a lot, and it's Tyson Bagent, who right now, as we're recording this, is the number 2 quarterback on the Bears depth chart behind Justin Fields. Now, the question was asked to the Bears head coach, Matt Eberflus, are you really ready to make this undrafted free agent from a Division II school your week 1 backup against the Packers?
I would say that, again, just kind of letting the roster finalize itself. We certainly feel great about where he is. He's put his best foot forward, and we're excited where we see him going in the future.
On a bigger picture level, what do you challenge him to do within this season, now that he's earned this opportunity?
I would just say that, he's, really just to improve and get better. It's when you're a young player like that, you have to improve and get better every single week. And he's going to learn as he goes through the process of how the game plan changes every week. And that's probably a lot different than what he's used to. You put a training camp install in and you're going through these concepts that you have, the runs, and then the play action comes off of it, and the screen game we're putting in, and the quick game, the empty game, and so forth. And you kind of go through that process during week 1, week 2, week 3 of training camp, and all of a sudden now you get to a game week. And you're like, say, hey, we're going to pull this off the board. We're going to change this, adjust this. And you got to learn all those concepts, but they may look different to the defense. And that's how we put them in. So he's going to have to learn how to do that process.
Yeah, a little bit of hesitance, I thought, from the Bears head coach Matt Eberflus talking about Tyson Bagent and realism. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be these simplified plays, the way they were in the preseason. There's a lot more he's going to have to learn. He's going to have to learn on the fly. And that's just Matt Eberflus's way of saying, yeah, man, you might be the guy, but if you are going to be the guy, we're about to throw a whole lot more at you. And if you're a head coach in the NFL, you pretty much have to assume that at some point in time, the backup quarterback will play, whether it's for a game or 2, or for a series or 2, or for a quarter or 2, whatever the case may be. So a little bit of hesitation from Flus on that. And I thought this was interesting as well, too. I want you to listen to Matt Eberflus's tone as he's talking about Tyson Bagent again right here. And the question was, do you think that utilizing the Bears order in the waiver process, as I told you, the Bears will have the number 1 overall picks in that process, assuming they'd like to go through that process, that utilizing the number 1 picks in the waiver process could lead to veteran leadership at quarterback behind Justin Fields. Here's Flus.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thought. I mean, we are certainly looking at that option. We are looking at other options too, but that's certainly a good thought when you can have somebody with experience in there to help younger quarterbacks. That's certainly something that we've talked about.
Yeah, so Flus keeping all options open. So, I mean, just the way he sounds, just throughout this whole process, there's always been something that has made me doubt that Tyson Bagent is actually going to be QB2, we'll see if that's right, or if he just keeps bursting right through all these obstacles as Tyson Bagent has. So I guess I'll believe it when I see it, when the Bears open up against the Packers on September 10th and I see a depth chart and we get the inactives and Tyson Bagent is actually on that list. So I would just say stand by still for the quarterback's room and exactly how the depth chart is going to go down. Few other things. The Dan Feeney trade is officially, like, who the hell's Dan Feeney? Yeah, he is an interior offensive lineman the Bears acquired from the Miami Dolphins for a 6th-round pick. Straight up. Bears give up a 6th-rounder for 2024, and they get Dan Feeney, who can play center and he can play guard. And we know that that's where the Bears are a little suspect right now, because there's no way Teven Jenkins is going to play in the first game against Green Bay. So he's out at guard. I guess Lucas Patrick is healthy because Matt Eberflus said everybody's healthy. But do they maybe not want to use him again because he wasn't very good when he played center or guard last year? I don't know. So Dan Feeney but the way they talked about him is that he's like, as opposed to he is to the guard position what a swing tackle would be to the tackle position, as in he could play anywhere. So Flus made it sound like he would just be depth, but who knows? Not something that we are entitled to know at this point, but I did think it was interesting. And yeah, with the offensive line, looks like Darnell Wright will be back at right tackle. Nate Davis should be playing. Braxton Jones has always been there. Cody Whitehair is there. He's been playing guard because of his hand and because of Teven Jenkins. But look, if Teven Jenkins' hand heals and, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that Cody Whitehair could be right back at the center position by the time the Bears play the Packers on that Sunday at 3:00. I do believe that is it. This is a fluid situation, so things can change quickly. We'll be talking soon to Ryan Poles, the general manager of the Chicago Bears, and Ian Cunningham, the assistant GM, and the drama continues to build towards the first week of the season, and I am pumped about it. This is where it starts to get real, as I said yesterday. Thanks to everybody for listening. Really appreciate you watching or listening to the Daily Score wherever you find your podcast. For our executive producer, Ray Diaz, I am Mark Grote. Have a great rest of your day.